Monosaccharides, disaccharides. Simple. One molecule, two molecules. Condensation reaction, alpha bond, beta bond. Primary thing is providing us with energy and sweetening food. Fantastic. Complex carbs are quite a bit different in terms of structure and really kind of what ultimately they're going to do. When it comes to complex carbs, here they are. These are two types. We have two types for simple, mono and di. I have two types here for complex, polysaccharide and oligo. Poly means many. Many saccharides, many sugars. What's many? Because that's nebulous as I'll get out. 10 or more. Okay. 10 or more monosaccharides strung together. What in the heck does oligo mean? Oligo means a few. That's F-E-W. Oligo means a few. What's a few? Well, if we know di is 2, it's got to be more than 2, so 3. And less than 10. Okay. So oligosaccharides are anywhere between 3 and 9. Monosaccharides bonded together. We have a couple major types of oligos, and we're not going to get into them a whole heck of a lot. We'll mention them here. Okay. I think on the next slide, I think I have it reinforced again. But these are our only two oligosaccharides, raffinose and stachyose. Those are our only two oligos that we have really within our diet. All right. As you can kind of see, both of them, very common. They're both non-digestible. Okay. They're both non-digestible. They are, as you can kind of see, made of 3 and 4 monosaccharides, and there's some examples of it. Okay, I mean, who doesn't love any of those things there? Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, asparagus, cauliflower. Fantastic. Okay, so if you consume any of those types of vegetables, hopefully you do, you get some oligos. You get raffinose. Stachyose, this one's found in green beans, human milk. Okay, those are going to be probably the primary ways that you get those in your diet, especially if you don't, utilize soybeans. Those are going to be probably the two major ways that you do it: breast milk and green beans. Okay, so we get this again, non-digestible. What does that mean? It means we don't have the enzymes to break them down. Who loves that? Your bugs. Okay? Your bugs, not digested by the human tract. Who loves them? The bacteria in your bowels. And this is where that BIOL comes in. Okay? If you take, dang it. Rich. When you consume a lot of green beans or a lot of whatever, okay, asparagus, it has a lot of those beta bonds in it. Those beta bonds, difficult to break down. And that's why your pee smells. That's why you fart after you eat a lot of those foods or get a little bloated. Okay? So that's why you do. Take Beano, the Beano gas. Okay. But those are your illegals. Non-digestible, the bacteria in your large intestine love them. Okay. Helps them to feed, make more good, be more healthy. Fantastic. Also great vitamin mineral profile. It's the complex ones that are going to be much more significant. Okay. We have two types of polysaccharides, starch and glycogen. Okay. Starch and glycogen. These are our two major types of complex carbohydrates. Right? This is what we generally think of when we talk about complex carbs. Of the two, when we talk about complex carbs, we really are talking about starch. Starch is the storage form in plants. Okay? Starch is your complex carbohydrate in plants. Glycogen is your complex carbohydrate in us, animals. Starch and glycogen are our storage forms of sugar. When you consume sugars, when you do stuff, right? We use those carbohydrates, we burn them, fund the energy to get the muscles to do action and work. When you stop working, when you stop exercising, okay, and you eat, all those carbs that are in that food go in to replace your stores, okay, for the stuff that you need very easily, very quickly to walk across campus, okay, to do exercise at the gym. When you need that energy, we get it from our stores, okay? And for us as animals, we're going to pull it from glycogen. Okay? We store glycogen in our muscles a little bit, and we store it in our liver. Those are the two primary locations where we store glycogen. Let's say we ate this morning, okay? It was at 7 o'clock. And by 10:30, you're like, man, I'm hungry. Well, that's just your perception of it. But what's been going on inside? Those glucose levels have been dropping steadily since you ate this morning at 7 o'clock. Okay? And now your glucose levels have started to drop below normal. What's normal? We'll talk about that later. That's where glycogen comes in. Okay? Somebody asked a question in the last hour asking, what does glucagon do? Glucagon helps to get sugar from storage. We break down glycogen. When we break down glycogen, we are pulling out glucose. Glucose levels start to rise back up in the blood. Now we can fund our bodies to do stuff. Starch is the storage form for complex carbohydrates, storage form of sugars in plants. We eat the plant. End of story. There you go. Where do you find? You can trip over them. Grain products are obviously going to be kind of the rich, biggest source for starch. Vegetables, obviously. Yams, potatoes, tubers in general. Vegetables, grains, great sources of starch. They do the same thing. They'll pull from their stores of starch to get glucose to help fund it to make stuff, flowers, bark, xylem and phloem. Okay? So plants do the same thing, but I don't really care. This is not a botany class. Right? Why do I care about starch? Because I'm going to pull that vegetable out of the ground and I'm going to eat the sucker. And so I'm consuming a complex carbohydrate. When it comes to starch, there are a few different forms. And when you look at the form, you can kind of see the difference between them. At least I hope you can. But one, it just goes to kind of the ease in which these can be broken down, cleaved up. Yeah, there we go. Here you can kind of see these. Here's amylose up here. You can see it's just a string of glucose molecules, hundreds of them. Here's amylopectin. It has a very kind of branched, open framework here. It's not just a straight chain. It's all amylose is. Okay. Here's glycogen. Okay, very crazy kind of network in which they're linked together. Okay. But amylose can be, I think I have it written down. Where do I have it written down? They could be chains of anywhere between 500 and 20,000 glucose molecules. For amylopectin, it could be upwards of 30 glucose molecules kind of strung together, and then it'll branch and chain around. So these are very huge, massive structures. Okay? Very big, massive structures. And again, glycosidic bonds are what are forming between these. Condensation reactions, yada, 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 all that stuff. They could be alpha. They can be beta bonds. Okay? And again, alpha and beta bonds, alpha bonds, we can break those down. Okay. So we can break down amylose, amylopectin, okay, glucagon. We can break those down from our stores or when we eat that plant. But if we have beta bonds, again, we don't have enzymes for. And you see that in fiber. Okay? You see that in fiber. Fiber is awesome, but it's non-digestible. If fiber is so awesome, but it's non-digestible, how can it be awesome? How can I get that awesomeness into us? Well, first we got to go consume it, right? And again, this is one of the things, this is a nutrient of concern because we don't get enough fiber here in the States. Generally just because we don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. Right? But here is fiber, and it can be called dietary fiber. Dietary fiber is shockingly the same thing, fiber. Okay? Again, non-digestible. Excuse me, non-digestible. As you can kind of see, it exists in two forms, soluble and insoluble. Soluble fiber dissolves in water. That's hence the moniker. Okay? Where is this soluble fiber? Right here. It's that flesh, okay, that meat of the apple that you're eating. Okay? Pectins, gums, mucilage, all those soluble fibers. Insoluble, as you might imagine, doesn't dissolve in water. Where do I find that? That's the skin. That's the outer skin of the apple, of the fruit. As you can kind of see, it's also the outer part of the grain as well, not the husk. The husk has been removed, okay? Because we can't eat the husk at all. It's not really easy or desirable to do. But ligand and hemicellulose, these are some of the insoluble fibers that make up the grains. Okay? Here's the endosperm. It's where all the sugar is. And there's a little germ right there. Okay? But all of these fibers are here on the outside. So when you eat whole grain, you get this whole shoot match here. And you get a lot of fantastic fiber, insoluble fiber, but that's okay. So you're probably thinking, okay, dude, you asked the question, awesome, this is great information. Now I know where I can get my soluble fiber and insoluble fiber from. But why is it awesome? How do I get this awesomeness into me? Insoluble fiber is awesome because I can't break it down. Why is that fantastic? Because it increases fecal bulk. It increases the size of your bowel movement. Why is that awesome? Because it helps to get your intestines to move. Your intestines contract, okay, at a certain rate. When the bulk increases, that increases the pressure exerted on the walls of that intestine. And so now it's going to contract with a greater amount of force to make it easier for that fecal matter to move. That's you just doing the you, okay? That's not you engaging, okay? Because your bowels are smooth muscle. It's involuntary. Increased stretch, that's an increased response where it contracts a little bit more for a longer period of time to push that fecal matter forward through the tube. So if you have this increased bulk when you sit down on the toilet to go bathroom, fantastic time. Okay, just no effort. You want to sit there and bear down. Don't got to do that. Okay, because you don't have to engage anything. The muscles of your digestive tract are doing it. So it increases fecal bulk, which helps us to make a very simplistic bowel movement. Okay? Speed through at a nice, specific pace. Soluble fibers, remember, these are the things that break down. That's pretty damn good. Okay? Soluble fiber helps to slow glucose absorption. Okay? It helps to delay the stomach empty, can lower blood glucose, or I'm sorry, blood cholesterol levels. All of those things are fantastic and awesome. How does it do that? Fiber, we can't break it down. Our body tries to, though. Right? So as soon as all of that fiber that you eat gets into your stomach, well, now your stomach's like, well, crap, I need more stuff. It draws more water in. Okay? It draws more water in, so it's going to fill up that stomach. You're going to eat less. But it pulls that water in because it's trying to facilitate a chemical reaction to get it broken down, hydrolysis. We can't do that. Okay? We can't break down some of that stuff. Okay, so it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of water. So that helps us to really increase that water intake into the stomach, which now means it has to stay in the stomach a little bit longer as it tries to facilitate that chemical reaction to break it down, along with all the other stuff that you're eating. So your stomach stays fuller longer, so you consume less. Fantastic. Slows glucose absorption, lowers blood cholesterol levels. It does this by interfering. Okay? When it gets into the bowels, when it gets into the small intestine and into the large intestine, it traps stuff. Okay? It will trap some of that extra cholesterol or those extra fats that you've consumed in your diet that didn't get absorbed. It gets trapped in the fibers, passed out through your bowel movement. It can slow glucose absorption. You don't have this huge burst of sugar. Right? You have a much more gradual introduction, absorption of sugar into the system because it takes longer to break down. Okay? So you don't have these massive peaks and valleys when it comes to sugar levels within the blood, which has been shown to be really not good for you. Because you get an overproduction of insulin, overproduction of glucagon, overproduction. So you get an overproduction of those hormones. Pancreas has to work harder. It doesn't like that. Okay? But this is why fiber is awesome. This is why you want to get that awesomeness into you, to ease that bowel movement, okay? To slow glucose absorption, to help regulate blood glucose levels, to lower blood cholesterol, just by simply trapping it and getting it to pass through your bowels into the toilet. Makes you fuller longer, so you consume less. So, I mean, there's a great reason to add some apples, some fruit, some psyllium to your grains in the morning, okay? Because it fills you up for a much longer period of time, so you don't have the tendency to go eat crap. Remember, we want a lot of our products, a lot of our grains to be whole. Okay? If you eat a lot of grain, but it's refined, it is going to be low in that fiber. Okay? That's why when they ask you to consume grains, mostly whole grains, it's because it has the entire profile there. Okay? It has the endosperm, it has the fiber. Okay? It has the oily germ associated with it. It has all of those components. Okay. And again, the biggest component that is missing when something is refined is that fiber. Okay. Here on this slide, I kind of break it down, looking at the three major parts of a whole grain, because these are what as you can kind of see, the husk is around the bran. And we don't want that. Okay. It's inedible. But you can see the bran, the germ, the endosperm. These are the three kind of major things. And when grain is super duper refined, all we really get is that endosperm, the starchy component. Right? And that's what's really bad about refined grains, because it's only the starchy carbohydrate component. All the other stuff is really gone down the poop chute. And when we first started refining grains and making flour and mass producing it, because we figured out how to, the bran and the germ was removed from the endosperm in the milling process, okay, in that refined process. The bran and the germ went to the cattle, and the endosperm went in that flour back. And that's what got put on everybody's shelves. And that's where we start to see the first key movement in terms of having an obesogenic environment, because now we're consuming a lot of flour, a lot of starch, and slowly over the decades doing less and less work. So, but you can kind of see the bran and the germ, that's what they are. And you can see it's rich in stuff. Okay, rich in stuff, fantastic stuff. And I have stuff underlined, that those are the huge components for it. Where's the bran? There it is. Okay, it's where your ligands were in that picture that I was showing. There's the endosperm right there, all that starchy center, and there you can kind of see that's the white flour. The husk on the outside, not so edible. If you've never tried to eat natural wheat there, go for it. You'll figure out it's not edible. It'll say it on the back. Okay, it'll say on the label there. Look for whole grain right there. Whole. Pretty fantastic. Okay. I get some examples there of some other terminology that's also used as well. I would love you to know the AI for fiber. I'd love you to know the AI for fiber. Adequate intake. You can see it is different between men and women. Yes, I will ask. 38 grams per day for men, 25 grams per day for women. Okay. You can see the typical American diet supplies only 17 grams. So this is a huge nutrient of concern. Okay. Huge nutrient of concern for here in the States. So it is a number that I like you to know when it comes to RDAs and AIs. 38 grams and 25 grams. Men and women, respectively. If having a fantastic bowel movement isn't enough for you to go find fiber, as you can kind of see, it can help reduce incidence of obesity. Why? You're consuming less. You're filling up more. It just draws more and more water in to try and break down. Lowers incidence of diabetes. Talked about that as well, with helping to slow glucose absorption, make it more steady, which doesn't burn out your beta cells, and burn out your pancreas, sorry. It's involved with helping to lower incidence of certain irritable bowel disorders. So intestinal tract disorders is just very general there. Helps with some irritable bowel, IBS or IBD. So it does have some help with it. And also cardiovascular disease. Again, cholesterol. Lowers cholesterol absorption into the body, which means now it's not in your blood vessels as much, and you have better heart health associated with it. I'm not going to ask the excessive intake, but you could read all that and be like, damn, better heart health. My bowels will feel good. I won't get the diabetes and I won't be overweight. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to eat all the fiber in the world. Don't. There is something as too much as of a good thing is bad. Okay. If you consume over 50 grams, holy smokes, you have, instead of having a very, very easy bowel movement, it's uber duper hard. Okay. You have a very hard stool, very dry stool, as there's a massive amount of water being drawn in, and then a massive amount of water being drawn back out because you're not consuming enough water a lot of times. If it's really hard stool, you're going to be pushing like you've never pushed before. Okay. Unless you've had a child, then you've pushed really hard before. Okay? And for guys, yeah, that wasn't fun to watch. Didn't look fun to do. And that's what it's going to be like for you. You're going to give birth and it's going to be painful as hell. You're not designed for that. It interferes with the absorption of minerals, really zinc and iron. And that's just because there's so much fiber and it interferes with the specific receptors to bring that in across. There's a bunch of different mechanisms in that. So it can lead to a lot of iron deficiency. Again, really bad. Tired, lethargic, zinc, more prone for infections. So that, and if you're eating 50 grams per day of fiber, you're going to be so full, and you're not going to get the requisite calories. So it is something that, focus on 38 and 25, because damn, we only get 17 anyway as a typical American. So if you're having some issues, having a nice normal bowel movement, everybody poops, just increasing a little bit of that fiber can help to really make it super easy to have a bowel movement and help with a lot of other health related issues as well.